Hello, everybody. It's Marcy from wavesofcommunication.com. Welcome to another episode of the Language Facilitation Helpline podcast, and thank you for tuning in today. The fastest results come when you enjoy the process of language facilitation. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Waves of Communication platform and the Language Facilitation Helpline podcast. And today I want to introduce Heather, who is a coach for parents, and she works with some specific kind of issues. So Heather, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, I am a certified food and body coach. I work with mothers to learn how to intuitively eat and intuitively move their body. At the core of what I do, I really help mothers develop a stronger sense of self-love for themselves. And yeah, I think that doing this work allows us to create deeper connections with our children because we kind of clear out our own garbage and allow ourselves to know what's true for us and then what's true for them.
Yeah, you know what? I just was really inspired to dig in about food now that you were talking about it and I was thinking about it because you know what? Food and access to food is a big deal in these houses of these kids. And I also know that kids use eating and food as a tool to manipulate their parents. So they will only eat a certain kind of thing because they know they can control their parents through their behavior. Like, I'll just have a fit every time you try to give me something different. And so the parent says, my child will only eat XYZ, and maybe those are not healthy things.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen this a lot. And I know that if you're a working parent, it's easy to want to just do the processed food thing. And that's fine every once in a while. That's great. You just do what you have to do. There's no judgment about food, at least in the circle and the community that I'm trying to create. It's everything in moderation. But absolutely, I personally am a little bit old school when it comes to dinner at my household, for example. I'm not making second meals. I'm not making different things. I will encourage for my daughter to try things at least. And, at a certain point, I know she's gone as far as she can go, but yeah, I think that this can be a huge manipulation tactic, and kids will say, it'll seem like they won't eat. And I know there's a family member of mine that has dealt with this where they're like, but I'm scared that they won't eat if I won't give them the thing that, whatever
Yeah,
the
I
thing
know
is.
that happens in my community because remember these kids, they've got other areas of their life where they're struggling. So they're challenged in their communication and they feel like I think these kids feel a loss of power in that, right? They don't have a voice, you
Mhm.
know, as far as being able to say their opinions about I'd rather have strawberry jelly than grape jelly, down to that. But even just, I am so controlled in other ways in my life that I want to control this because they've got to go to therapy or they've
Mhm.
got to, I don't know, do whatever. So, how do you help a parent? Because I think it happens that parents do institute these control things. It's not because they mean to be controlling of their kids, they just want to have control of their life, right? They just want to have boundaries, or like you said, they're old school about it. They only want to make one meal a day and they expect their child to accommodate to them. But what happens if it's not happening? How can we facilitate that? If you had a client where there was this, I call this a real disconnect. I want you to eat what I'm serving and I want you to give me what I want, are two different mindsets about this. How would you facilitate connection to help this family overcome this difference of opinion?
Yeah, I think that for me personally, there's what we do in my household is we kind of work together to do a little bit of meal planning, and we like to talk about it, talk about food, and I think that does encourage that verbal communication. I would love to encourage people to talk more about food and, well, I like this. I like grapes and I like string cheese and
And I'd like to add even why. Not only I
yeah.
like grapes, but why do I like grapes? What's so good about grapes?
And how do
Because
they make you feel?
your child knows what's so good about chicken nuggets or hot dogs or candy or whatever. They know in their mind it makes me feel a certain way. I get to chew a certain way with my mouth.
Mhm,
I get to feel a certain thing. My tummy feels good after I eat it, because think about how you feel different versus
mhm,
when you eat a bowl of chicken soup versus chewing a piece of gum. They meet different needs for you. So I think, Heather, you're really onto something here. With parents of late talkers, we're talking on our channel about giving kids models of language that they need. And
mhm,
if food is a struggle in your home, then talking about food. And I love that you shared, give your own opinion. Why
mhm,
do you like this? What
mhm.
is your benefit? Because I know we do eat some things like that kale salad or whatever that we eat because it's good for us,
Yeah.
right? Or it's whatever. It's not our favorite, but we do it anyway because we know it's good. Or we do it to balance our diet because yesterday I ate pizza and today I'm going to eat kale salad or something like that. No, I think that's it. The key for this and how you connect is meal planning about things that you're doing together. And I would say on the language facilitation platform, take it all the way through to the cooking, because we're
Mhm.
always facilitating independence of the child in a cooperative activity. So there's nothing more fun than cooking together. And it starts with meal planning, grocery shopping, and then at the store you can talk about, why did you choose this banana versus this banana, or why did you choose this brand of rice versus this brand of rice. Maybe it's the only one there, maybe it was on sale. All the other teaching that you can do at the same time when there is this food issue. Okay, so now when you've got your clients, tell us about the kinds of struggles that the women, the adults, are going through with food when you work with them on your platform.
Yeah, it's usually, working moms or even stay-at-home moms too that are maybe have the side hustle or something, but they're very
Or they're
busy.
too busy with a late talking kid who's always on.
Yes,
They've got to be a language facilitator and a parent and a boss and a whatever they've got
exactly.
to do in their life. They're just busy. I get it.
They're busy, right? We're all busy and so, yeah, a lot of the times they are struggling with their weight in general. That's usually the first thing they're thinking about is, "I wanna lose weight." But I really try to help them go deeper with that. And so the reason that they might be struggling with their weight is some sort of disordered eating. It could be binge eating and emotional eating, stress eating. And so, I'm sure if you're dealing with a late talker, you're stressed out by this because maybe you are just discovering Marcy and all the resources and you're like, "Okay, where do I begin?" And and so when I'm working with a mother, I'm not creating a meal plan for her. I'm not creating a workout plan. We're not focused on weight loss at all. I really would like to start with helping them practice their safety in the body and practicing visceral intelligence so they don't infer that what is happening to them is because of the child or something or because of a situation, that it's something within us that we have to uncover the layers and begin to have enough self-awareness of it and what the actual unmet need is for us as mothers so that we don't project stuff onto our children or the rest of our families for that matter. and
And
then
this
go
is
into.
visceral intelligence. Talk a little bit more specifically about what that means, because this is the first time I've heard that term. I can understand it because people, in fact, I called it emotional intelligence when I was thinking about it. But this is a whole different kind of understanding about your body. Talk about what that means. How do we get visceral intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, I mean, maybe some of your community has practiced it before because lots of meditations practice body scans, and body scanning is a great way to begin practicing visceral intelligence. You're doing this body scan and you're like, oh, there's like a knot in my throat, and oh, my chest is really tight, and oh, my legs and my back. And as you begin to develop this visceral intelligence, it gets stronger and stronger, and you can just notice the most subtle things in your sensations in your body, to the point where you can understand what it is that you actually need to do to nourish yourself.
Aha. So we're going to body scan, identify feelings. What are we identifying when we scan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I think different parts of the body can really tell us what it is that's going on for us. So, when you're noticing a sensation in your body, such as tightness in, let's say, the throat. I often have tightness in my throat. I'm really working on this through podcasting and doing things like this by speaking. But there's some tightness there. And it's so interesting because, and I hope you don't mind if I do a little mini side tangent, but for me, I can massage it a little bit and feel that there is some deeper story there that I can dig into in terms of my own childhood of maybe being shut down verbally and not feeling that there was a safe space to be heard and seen and validated.
Wow. All right. So let me get this straight. We're just going to break this down because while you're talking, I'm visualizing a whole activity here. You're
Mhm,
scanning your body, you feel a sensation, you're almost guided. We're on video here and she reaches for her throat talking about it. I was actually feeling your same knot in my throat because
mhm,
we were talking about it together and we were really connected in that experience, but you were really connected with your body. So you're thinking about what it is. And then while you're connected with your body, a story comes to mind. You can't,
mhm,
it like popped into your head. You went off on a tangent. And
mhm,
so think about how many times you are sitting thinking about a problem or what I'm going to do or whatever, and something pops into your head like that, those ideas that pop in.
mhm,
I think that's like when you're really tuned in, right, to your star player, to your best information, because that idea of, oh, maybe I'll go get a drink of water, or I think I really need to go to the bathroom, or my stomach, you know what I mean? All that stuff where you're thinking about your throat and you started to think about, your mind went there into some
mhm,
childhood trauma or some kind of whatever. Your mind could go anywhere during this scanning. It could go to old things. It could go to worries of the future. It could go to any place when these stories come out. And so what do? You see this story. What if it's a sad story? What if it's a scary story?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked this because this is the next part I like to go into, which is releasing stories and identities. And, the thing.
Releasing them.
Yes, and so that's not always easy to do. At first, it's important to practice that visceral intelligence and establish some safety in the body so that you can just really see and feel and validate yourself in that experience, in that story, and in the identity that has been created out in that. And we have to remember that we are these human beings that grow up in environments with people that we have these layers that get built up that create our narrative and our identity. And you could grow up in any number of situations and be a completely different person, a completely different personality. And we know from psychology that it's nurture and nurture and nature. And so it's this combination, right? But the point that I'm trying to make here is that when we can allow ourselves enough safety to just let the story be there for a moment, let it settle and recognize it, validate it, be like, yeah, that was really hard. And then we can even do things like practicing cord cutting, which is visualizing this cord of connection from that story, or maybe it's that person or that environment or something. And we can practice releasing it from our body and literally, you can, from your stomach, just pulling out this energy and releasing. Is that identity true for you? Or was that did some parent or teacher tell you that's who you were? Is that true for you? And as you go deeper into yourself, you find out what is actually true for you.
Yeah, I love that. And you can get rid of the things that are not true. You talked a little bit at the beginning about garbage and how, we are exposed. We're surrounded by a really messy world right now. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of influences, including us. I mean, here we are trying to come on YouTube and influence you and talk about how you can look at things. But it's always your choice about what you do. And I love the idea of being vulnerable enough to dig in and scan and find these irritants in you and understand that there's probably a story behind it. And when you dig into that story, allow yourself to feel the feels or whatever for a little while. But then you have the power to decide if it's really yours. I think that part of the exercise is the most important. And that's how you release it, right? When people say, how do I get rid of fear or guilt? You realize that it's not yours in the first place. It was
Mhm.
put on you by someone else's expectation of you that wasn't realistic, and you took it on. Maybe they were a person of authority. Maybe it was, whatever. You're just feeling so lost in yourself that you'll take anybody's advice. We
Mhm.
don't know how these things get in us, but they do. They get in all of us, don't they, Heather?
Yeah, they really do. And as parents too, I've often found myself worrying about what I'm projecting onto my child. And I just want to validate anyone who might be thinking those thoughts too. But we have to understand that that's the beautiful part about the human experience is that we just, as parents, do our very, very best. But as we continue to do this work on ourselves and really grounding into ourselves, we can show up for them to create the space for them to engage in communication and safe communication and let them be their selves. Yeah.
So it's kind of like these problems that pop up, like the food problem. You have a difference of idea about food, or a difference of idea about play, or a difference of idea about speech, or a difference idea about wearing shoes or going out or whatever. You and your child, when your ideas are separate, that's when maybe you could be potentially tempted to project your ideas onto them, or they are tempted to project their ideas, because that's what we do. When we're not connected, we just project our ideas out there and hope somebody picks it up. But when you're connected, it's a lot easier to monitor what you're putting out there, because you are paying attention to the response of the child. When you talk to them, you look at their face and you see, because they're nonverbal or limited verbal, they're not able to say, I disagree with you, but I have an altering opinion, or, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
let me try my way this time. They just feel a certain way, either put down on, projected upon,
Mhm.
or misunderstood and feeling like they've got to project onto you, right? That's
Mm.
where the disconnect happens, when you are in projection mode instead of cooperative, give and take in your communication about that. So when you're working with parents and kids together, have you put together little strategies to help parents work with their kids to help them do body scanning and help them feel? Because I think, of course, if adults are housing these little stories inside of us in our uncomfortable visceral feelings. Kids are too, aren't they?
Absolutely. There's one exercise I had mentioned before we got started doing eye gazing, which is really great. And that's simply just staring at each other and, you're looking into each other's eyes and maybe you're projecting love to them and they can feel that. And that's beautiful too. But there's an even better one, I think, especially in terms of helping the late talker. But yeah, so you can do a feeler, which is where you set a timer for 5 minutes each. And you might start as the adult to model to them how to do this. And so you would just close your eyes and you would begin verbally expressing what you're viscerally experiencing and maybe what you're emotionally feeling about those visceral experiences that you're having in your body. And this really can help the person that's doing um, that's verbalizing their side of the experience, not only to practice their communication skills, but it also allows people to feel seen and heard and held. It's emotional holding. And so you can do this and then you can, let the timer go off and then the person can say, do you need 2 more minutes? Because sometimes people do need a little bit longer, but it sort of creates this container of practicing where it's not this ongoing, wide open thing of emotional verbal spillage everywhere, you know.
Ah, yeah. So there is a time frame on it. Or even with your child, because they're not going to understand 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or when the timer goes off, potentially you could just say, we're going to start at the top and go to the bottom. And
Mhm.
I would really, especially with a late talker or a child, show them how. So through your verbal models, you'll have a demonstration. So let me see if I can get this right. So if I close my eyes and I say, now I'm thinking about my head, and my head feels super clear. I'm ready to listen and learn. Now I'm thinking about my shoulders. My shoulders feel kind of tight because I've been holding my phone and looking like this too much. And I think maybe I need to sit up straight more now, because the story automatically, for me, some sort of a solution automatically comes because I talk about these irritants or issues and stories as something I want to interact with, something I want to engage with, something I can do something about, right? I don't have to just feel achy shoulders. I understand why they're achy, and now I know that I have a choice. I could watch my phone less. I could sit up straighter. I could do other things. The ideas come to me. And
They do.
I'm not going to pick an idea I hate. I might think about, oh, yeah, I should, lay off my phone for a whole week. But is that good for me? I don't know if that's good for me. I need my phone every day. That's how I check my emails. So I think I'll just make sure I pay attention. And then, okay, now I'm thinking about my tummy. My tummy's kind of empty right now. I didn't eat breakfast today. Probably will feel better after I eat lunch. Okay, my legs feel like they want to move. They're kind of angsty and movie like this. That when I focus on my legs, I think we need to go for a walk later. Okay, my time is up. Are you ready? Because I just did head, shoulders, stomach, legs, like 4 areas.
Yeah.
That it was short enough term that I could go through, and I could take a little time with each area to sort of dig in. But then I moved on. I didn't go on and on and on and on and on about it. I moved on. And so as the guide, you kind of have to teach the child how to keep the pace, because I think what would happen is my old mind that wasn't in the process of scanning my whole body might have gone off on that tangent and I didn't finish the scan. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's so true. And yeah, I love what you said too about how these ideas come to you where you're like, "Oh, you can feel the difference between a positive solution versus like one that doesn't make you feel very good, like cutting yourself off from your phone
I
for the whole
shoulda,
week."
coulda, I shoulda
Yeah.
done this, or I should do that, or I'll
Yeah.
only eat kale for a week. But you have to really think about, is that what you want to do, what I want to do, because I can choose. This
Yeah.
is what I want to do. And remember, we will choose, even kids will choose to do things that are not so comfortable, that are out of their comfort zone.
Mhm.
And that's what we need them to do. We need them to get out of their comfort zone so they evolve, right?
Yeah.
And I think this whole visceral intelligence is your way to find out your way out, your way through the comfort into the uncomfort. And
Yeah.
how do we work with it instead of just ignoring it or suppressing it or beating yourself up because you have, oh yeah, it's because I do the phone and I have bad habits about the phone and my shoulders, or my stomach hurts because I ate that whole entire frozen pizza all by myself and I shouldn't do that. You can beat yourself up and then you don't finish scanning and using. I think this is a big deal about
Mhm.
understanding the difference on how to use this in a positive way or use it to beat yourself up, because people could be tempted to
Yeah.
go down. You can grab life rafts or you can grab anchors on the waves of communication.
It's so true, like, I mean, I'd love to bring up this one idea of pillars of connection where, there's your intellectual mind, which is so amazing and beautiful, but sometimes it really can get crazy in there. I mean, in the sense of all the stories and the things. And so we get down to the next level, which is emotions. And then you can go even deeper into intuition. And that's where the real truth is. And so it's exactly what you're saying, where it's not getting, notice the difference between when you're going down the rabbit hole of the story, or am I staying here and being like, okay, so I have this, be the observer of your experience and move through it, move on, and don't stay in the story.
Yeah. And, the other thing that happens a lot on my channel is we've got parents that have taken their kids to professionals who they trusted and they were misled. Their kids were given labels, they were pushed into things that they weren't comfortable about, they were had guilt trips thrown at them, a lot of stuff these parents have been through trying to navigate the mess of the system that is out there right now. And they can get, stuck in this habit of, yeah, it's not for me. It's, I don't, they push the need to do this self care down because they are this projected guilt, or you're not doing enough, or you did the wrong thing, or whatever they're seeing is crippling to them, and it stops them from being able to connect with their late talker and provide the language models they need. We always talk about with language facilitation, the strategies are easy, but it's making the change that's hard. And I think the biggest reason that the change is hard is because people are grabbing onto things that aren't true for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I also think that part of this, obviously I'm not a communications expert or anything with the late talkers and stuff, but I think, like my father-in-law is a retired doctor, and even we talk about how, there's a lot of different types of doctors out there with their own stuff that they're bringing to the table about what they think is right. And so everything that any information, we live in an information overload world now. Any information that you take in, just take what feels true for you and try it out. And if it's not working, then find more information. Keep researching and testing to see what's working for you and your family.
And this visceral test, this literal, how does your body feel about this decision? Instead of your mind, when you
Mhm,
bring it down past even your emotions, should I, shouldn't I,
mhm,
because that's all that. And it's in your heart, really. What does my heart want? What feels right to me? And it might not be the fastest, it might not be the most skyrocketing novel thing. It could be, I think I'll start drinking more water. I mean, very, very simple things, because we talk about here too how your mindset, it's easier to grab onto the life raft when
mhm,
you see the surface, right? When you think that you're 2,000 leagues below and you're never going to make it, you might as well just sink. But if you can see the difference, and the only way that you can see that you can get yourself forward is through your own actions. I did this for myself. I believe I can do this without this information. I'm powerful. I'm capable. My child loves me. And at least I know that. And we
Yeah.
can start there. So bring it back to the easiest, right?
Yeah, I
And
just think of that.
test it with your heart, test it with your
Yeah.
body, because you could be, I live alone and I make a lot of the decisions that I make forward in my life all by myself. Would you do this, would you do this? And I could ask, neighbors on the street or call a hotline or something like that, but ultimately this is what I do. I sit with it for a minute. If you don't know now, it's okay to wait, relax, connect, and understand where the decisions are coming from your inner truth, right?
Right.
And then remember, all of you moms whose kids are nonverbal and or limited verbal, and they're using a lot of behavior to communicate. The message that is behind those behaviors comes from here. It doesn't come from here.
Mhm.
They're automatically communicating their heart. That's what they can't hold back. When they're upset, when they're excited, they can't hold back. And you see it in their
Yeah.
behavior. And this connection, when you watch your child flapping, or you watch your child lining something up, or you watch your child screaming, check in viscerally for yourself before you start judging and interacting and solving the problem. Take a
Mhm.
moment to see what this is. Where is this coming from? Because remember, in your child, there's a story too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just I was thinking about when you mentioned, the habits when we were talking about implementing new habits, it is about making it easy for you because that is a huge I mean, I love the book Atomic Habits for anyone that has never read it. I highly recommend it in terms of understanding human behavior and how to implement habits and why it's difficult to implement habits. But one of the pillars, and I'm sorry, I can't remember, there's 4 of them, but one of them is make it easy. And it's about making things accessible for yourself and for your family and your child so that you can get to where you need to be or desire to be, especially in terms of communicating, right?
That's right. That's right. Okay, so this has been a really kind of deep conversation where we're really digging into why you feel the way you feel and how to do something about it, right? Is really what all this is. Now, if food is an issue in your life and you are having this private struggle, I know a lot of people have this struggle very privately, right? Or publicly. However, if food is an issue for you, Heather, tell us about your resources and how people can access your information.
I have a little 6-day mini course, that people can sign up for if they just wanna I call it like my self-love 101 kit.
They're connecting with you through Instagram. And I think that's it. That's why we're doing these collabs. And I think
Mhm.
it's really helpful. So I hope that this information was helpful to all of you. This 6-day mini course, it sounds amazing. And I am anticipating that my audience, after 6 days of practice like this, you will find yourself adapting those strategies over into your language facilitation, because that's what my audience is great at. They use my information as resources. They go out, they make their own plans, they innovate, and they integrate these kinds of strategies into their lives. And breath work and visceral body scanning they're super easy, super fast, and super, super powerful, helpful strategies that you can use, because the stresses aren't going away. The triggers aren't going away. Every time, you never know when the next thing happens that's going to throw you off kilter
Mhm.
and create some kind of dis-ease in your body, and you can find it with this scanning. So I love these resources. Please check out Heather's information, and thanks so much for joining us, Heather.
Thank you so much. It was really an honor to be here and be able to talk with your community about everything.
With a whole range of Waves of Communication resources, from free content to customized coaching, you now have access to everything you need to elevate spoken language to infinite success. You are welcome to get your journey started with my 11-week language facilitation journey to speech workbook. You can access this workbook and all of the language facilitation resources on my website, wavesofcommunication.com.